My son stood at the microphone in front of 200 of Wall Street's finest and told them I was a business consultant. The applause that followed his speech felt like tiny knives against my chest. The worst part wasn't the lie itself. It was watching him smile with relief when they believed him, as if my real profession was something shameful that needed to be buried. That night, September 14th, 2024, I made a decision. I wouldn't confront him. I wouldn't yell. I would wait, watch, and let him teach himself the lesson he clearly needed to learn. Before we continue, make sure you're subscribed to Edward's Revenge Stories. Hit that notification bell because we bring you new stories every single day. Drop a like and tell us in the comments what city you're watching from. My name is Edward Morrison. I'm 64 years old, and I've been a master plumber for 42 years. I know that doesn't sound glamorous to most people. I've spent my life elbow deep in pipes, crawling through basements, fixing what breaks when nobody else knows how. But I've always been proud of my work. I keep people's homes running. I keep their businesses open. When a hospital's heating system fails in January, they don't call a consultant. They call someone like me. I raised my son Marcus to respect honest work. Or at least I thought I did. His mother Sarah and we gave him everything we could afford and plenty we couldn't. Private tutors when his grades slipped in high school. A reliable car for college. Help with his security deposit when he moved to Manhattan after graduation. Sarah died 2 years ago from pancreatic cancer. The illness took her in 4 brutal months. Marcus came home 3 times during those 4 months. Each visit lasted less than 48 hours. He had important meetings, he said. Critical presentations. I understood. At least I told myself I did. A man builds a career in investment banking. He can't just walk away. The distance between us started long before Sarah got sick. It started the summer he interned at Goldman Sachs. He came home for a weekend and barely made eye contact. When I asked about his work, he gave one-word answers. When I told him about a complex job I'd just finished at the new Performing Arts Center, restoring the original 1,920 seconds plumbing system, he looked at his phone. After Sarah's funeral, he stayed for the reception. 2 hours. Then he had to catch the train back to New York. He hugged me at the door, promised to call more often, and I didn't hear from him for 6 weeks. The Gala was at the Mandarin Oriental. His investment firm was celebrating their best quarter in company history. Marcus called me a week before. "Dad, I'd really like you to come. It's important to me." His voice carried a warmth I hadn't heard in months. I said yes immediately. I bought a new suit, got a haircut, took the train up to Manhattan, and checked into a budget hotel in Queens. The ballroom glittered with crystal chandeliers and black tie formality. I felt out of place the moment I walked in. Marcus found me at the bar. He looked successful. Expensive suit, perfect haircut, confident handshake with everyone who passed. He introduced me to a few colleagues. "This is my father, Edward. He's a consultant." 3 times he said it, 3 different people. Each time the word consultant felt like a small betrayal. Then came the speeches. The managing director talked about performance. The senior partners toasted the team. And Marcus, recognized as Analyst of the Year, took the microphone. He talked about perseverance, about building a career from scratch. I didn't have connections in this industry. I didn't have family wealth or legacy admissions. Everything I've achieved I've earned through hard work and determination. The room applauded. I stood in the back, hands gripping my whiskey glass, watching him accept praise for being self-made, as if Sarah and I didn't exist. As if the 60-hour weeks I worked to pay for his education were just backstory he'd edited out of his personal narrative. I didn't make a scene. I finished my drink. I found Marcus afterward, shook his hand, told him I was proud. I took the late train back to Philadelphia, got home at 2 in the morning, and sat in my workshop behind the house. The small building where I store my tools and equipment, where I do my paperwork and my thinking. I keep a journal there, have for years. Sarah gave it to me. Black leather cover, told me to write down the important days. I opened it and wrote the date, left space beneath it, then added one line, "Remember this feeling. Use it when the time comes." The following weeks passed quietly. Marcus didn't call. I didn't reach out. I kept working. A broken water main at a high school. A complete bathroom renovation for a young couple in Fishtown. Regular maintenance at 3 different apartment buildings. The physical work helped. It always does. You can't think about disappointment when you're wrestling with a stubborn pipe fitting, but the hurt lingered. I'd catch myself wondering where I went wrong, what I could have done differently, whether Sarah would have handled it better. On October 19th, I received a phone call that changed everything. It came from a law firm in Center City, Harrison and Associates. The woman on the line, Jennifer Harrison, asked if I could come to their office the next day. She had information regarding the estate of Mrs. Eleanor Chen. I knew Eleanor. I'd worked for her since 1989. Started when she and her husband bought a historic townhouse near Rittenhouse Square, fixed their plumbing, upgraded their heating system, maintained everything for 35 years. Her husband died in 2003. I kept working for Eleanor, checking on her every month, making sure everything functioned properly. She treated me like family, insisted I stay for tea after every job, asked about Sarah's health, about Marcus's career. When Sarah got sick, Eleanor sent flowers every week. After Sarah died, Eleanor came to the funeral. She held my hand and told me that grief was love with nowhere to go. Eleanor passed away in September, just a week before Marcus's gala. I'd been to her service. A small gathering, mostly elderly friends. I didn't know she'd been wealthy. I knew the townhouse was valuable, sure, but Eleanor lived simply. Modest clothes, practical furniture. She drove a 20-year-old Volvo. I'd assumed she had enough to live comfortably, nothing extraordinary. Jennifer Harrison's office occupied the entire 15th floor of a glass tower on Market Street. She greeted me personally, led me to a conference room with a view of City Hall. She laid out documents across the mahogany table: Eleanor's will, financial statements, property deeds. Mr. Morrison, Mrs. Chen left specific instructions. She considered you one of the most trustworthy men she'd ever known. She wanted to ensure you were taken care of. The estate totaled $6.5 million. Real estate holdings, investment accounts, a collection of Chinese art worth nearly $1 million alone. Eleanor left everything to various charities with one major exception. She left $2 million directly to me. Another $1 million designated for a purpose she'd outlined in a letter she'd written 3 weeks before her death. Jennifer handed me the envelope, Eleanor's handwriting on the front. To be opened by Edward Morrison only. I waited until I got home to read it. Sat in the workshop, hands shaking slightly as I unfolded the paper. Eleanor's words were clear and precise. Edward, by the time you read this, I'll be gone. Don't be sad. I've had a long, full life, and I'm ready to see my husband again. I want to explain why I'm leaving you this money. You've taken care of my home for 35 years. But more than that, you've taken care of me. You've treated me with respect and kindness. You've never tried to overcharge me or take advantage. You've been honest in a world that often rewards dishonesty. I've met your son Marcus several times. He's bright and successful. But I've noticed something troubling. The way he speaks about your profession. The way he minimizes your work. The last time he visited with you, 3 years ago at Christmas, he made a comment about hoping you'd retire soon so he wouldn't have to explain what you do for a living. I know how much that hurt you, though you pretended not to hear. I'm leaving you enough money to live comfortably, but I'm also leaving you money with a specific purpose. Use it to show your son, and anyone else who needs to learn, that honest work has value, that the people who build and maintain our world deserve respect. Create something that honors the dignity of your profession. Make Sarah proud. With love and respect, Eleanor. I read the letter 3 times. Each time the ache in my chest grew sharper. Eleanor had seen what I'd tried to ignore. She'd witnessed my son's contempt and felt compelled to address it even after her death. I folded the letter carefully, placed it back in the envelope, and added it to my journal. That night, for the first time since the gala, I felt something shift. Not anger exactly. Purpose. Eleanor had given me resources. Now I needed a strategy. Marcus called the next day. First time in 3 weeks. Hey Dad, just checking in. How are things? His voice was casual, distracted. I could hear street noise in the background. He was walking between meetings. I told him things were fine. Asked about his work. He talked for 8 minutes about a deal he was structuring, using terms I didn't fully understand. Private equity, leveraged buyouts, return on investment. When he paused, I asked if he was seeing anyone. He laughed. No time for that. Maybe after bonus season. He had to go, another call coming in. Love you, Dad. Talk soon. The conversation left me feeling emptier than the silence before it. I spent the next week researching how to establish a charitable foundation, what legal requirements applied, Who could help me structure it properly? Jennifer Harrison recommended a nonprofit attorney named David Kim. We met at his office in Old City. I explained what I wanted to create: a foundation that provided scholarships for young people entering the skilled trades: plumbing, electrical work, carpentry, HVAC, full tuition coverage for trade school, tool stipends, even living expenses for students who couldn't afford to work while studying. I want to call it the Sarah Morrison Plumbing Education Fund, I told David, after my wife. She always believed that people who work with their hands deserve the same respect as people who work behind desks. David smiled. That's beautiful. Let's make it happen. The process took 6 weeks. Articles of incorporation, tax-exempt status applications, board of directors, appointments. I recruited 3 people: Jennifer Harrison, David Kim, and Tom Fletcher, another master plumber I'd known for 30 years. We each contributed our expertise. By early December, the Sarah Morrison Fund was official. We had an initial endowment of $1 million from Eleanor's designated gift. I planned to add more of my personal inheritance over time, but I wanted to start with impact. David helped me draft a press release. We sent it to local media. The Philadelphia Inquirer ran a story. Longtime plumber establishes scholarship fund for trade students. They interviewed me at my workshop, photographed me with my tools. I talked about Sarah, about the dignity of skilled work, about giving opportunities to young people who chose practical professions over corporate careers. The article went viral locally, shared thousands of times on social media. Local news picked it up. I did 2 television interviews. The response overwhelmed me. Applications started arriving immediately. Kids from all over the region, some from families with no money for school, some from backgrounds like Marcus's, raised by working-class parents who'd sacrificed everything. Reading their essays broke my heart and put it back together simultaneously. A 17-year-old girl from North Philadelphia who wanted to become an electrician like her late father. A 22-year-old immigrant who'd been working as a plumber's assistant for 4 years and dreamed of starting his own business. A 19-year-old from a small town outside Allentown whose parents had died in a car accident and who'd been supporting his younger siblings while attending trade school part-time. We selected our first 10 scholarship recipients. Full rides, $20,000 each, tools included. The awards ceremony was scheduled for January 15th at a hotel in Center City. But before that event, something happened that I should have anticipated but somehow didn't. Marcus called again. This time his voice sounded different. Tight. Stressed. "Dad, I saw the article about your foundation. That's amazing. I had no idea you were involved in philanthropy." I kept my tone neutral. Told him it was something I'd wanted to do for a while. A way to honor his mother. He asked questions. How much money was involved? Where it came from? Whether I was independently wealthy now. I gave vague answers. Mentioned an inheritance from a former client. Didn't specify amounts. "That's really generous of them," he said. "Must have been a substantial estate." I changed the subject. Asked about his work. He seemed distracted now, less interested in talking about himself. Before we hung up, he said something that caught my attention. "Dad, would it be okay if I came to Philadelphia soon? I'd like to talk to you about something important." He arrived 2 days before Christmas. I picked him up at 30th Street Station. He looked thinner than at the gala, tired. We drove back to my house in silence, the radio filling the awkward space between us. I'd kept everything exactly as it was when Sarah was alive. Her reading chair by the window, her collection of mystery novels on the shelf, the ceramic chickens she'd bought at a flea market that I'd always thought was hideous but she'd loved. Marcus looked around with an expression I couldn't quite read. "It's weird being here without Mom." I nodded. Poured us both coffee. We sat at the kitchen table, the same table where we'd eaten thousands of meals as a family. "Dad, I need to talk to you about something." His hands wrapped around the mug, not drinking, just holding it for warmth. "I'm in some financial trouble." The confession surprised me. He made good money. 6 figures, I knew. I've been living beyond my means. The apartment in Manhattan is expensive. I have student loans I've been deferring. And I made some bad investment decisions. Personal trades outside of work. I thought I was smarter than I was. He looked up, met my eyes. "I need to borrow money. $30,000. I'll pay you back with interest over 2 years. I have it all planned out." I sat there, letting the request sink in. $30,000. a number that would have been impossible for me to access 2 months ago. Now it was pocket change compared to what sat in my bank accounts. But the request itself, coming on the heels of his denial at the gala, his years of distance, his obvious embarrassment about my profession, it felt like a test. Not for him, for me. Why come to me? I asked. Why not ask your firm for an advance? Or get a bank loan? He shifted uncomfortably. I can't let anyone at work know I'm struggling. It would hurt my reputation. And banks, the interest rates are terrible right now. You're my father. I thought you'd want to help me. There it was. The assumption that biology created obligation, that I would hand over money simply because we shared blood, regardless of how he'd treated me, how he'd treated his mother's memory. I took a slow breath, set down my coffee cup. Marcus, I love you. You're my son, but I'm not going to give you the money. His face registered shock, then confusion. What? Why not? You just inherited enough to start a foundation. You clearly have resources now. I kept my voice steady. I do have resources, and I'm using them for a specific purpose. To help young people who respect the value of skilled work, people who don't see manual labor as something to be ashamed of. The words hung in the air. Marcus stared at me. Is this about the gala? About me calling you a consultant? I didn't answer directly. When your mother was sick, she told me something. She said the hardest part of dying wasn't leaving me. It was leaving you, because she worried you'd lost sight of what matters. She worried you'd become the kind of man who measures worth by job titles and bank balances instead of character and integrity. His eyes filled with tears. That's not fair. I loved Mom. I came home when I could. You came home when it was convenient. I corrected. When the meetings allowed. When the presentations were finished. Your mother died, thinking you were ashamed of us. He stood up abruptly, chair scraping against the floor. I'm not ashamed. I work in a different world now. The people at my firm, they come from wealthy families. They went to prep schools. Their parents are doctors and lawyers and executives. I'm trying to fit in, to succeed. Is that so wrong? The question deserved a real answer. I stood too, facing him across the table. No, wanting success isn't wrong. But denying where you come from, that's not success. That's cowardice. You stood in front of your colleagues and told them you built yourself from nothing. You erased me and your mother from your story like we were mistakes to be covered up. Marcus grabbed his coat. I should go. This was a mistake. He headed for the door. I didn't try to stop him. He paused at the threshold, hand on the doorknob. For what it's worth, I am sorry about what I said at the gala. I was nervous. I didn't think you'd take it personally. I met his eyes. That's the problem, son. You didn't think about me at all. He left. I heard his footsteps on the porch, fading down the street. He didn't come back that night. I found out later he took the last train to New York. He didn't call on Christmas. Didn't text. The silence felt heavy, but also clarifying. I'd drawn a line. Now we'd see if he had the courage to cross back over it. The scholarship ceremony in January drew significant attention. Media coverage, city council members, the president of the local trade school. Our 10 recipients walked across the stage to receive their awards. I shook each hand, looked each young person in the eye, told them their work mattered. The girl from North Philadelphia, Jasmine, hugged me so hard I couldn't breathe. Thank you, she whispered. My dad would be so proud. After the ceremony, during the reception, a reporter from YY Radio approached me. She wanted to do a longer feature about the foundation, about why it mattered. We scheduled an interview for the following week. The story aired in February. I talked about Sarah, about working with my hands for 4 decades, about the assumption that college is the only path to success when we desperately need skilled workers to keep our infrastructure functioning, about Eleanor Chen and her quiet generosity, about the young people we were helping. The interview reached unexpected audiences. National trades organizations shared it. It was picked up by a podcast about working-class America. Suddenly I was receiving calls from trade schools in other states asking if we'd expand. The foundation board met to discuss growth strategies. We decided to keep our focus local for now, but to increase our scholarship numbers. We'd fund 20 students next year, then 30 the year after. The momentum felt purposeful. Like Sarah and Eleanor were guiding me towards something meaningful. In March, I received a letter. Handwritten, postmarked from Manhattan. Marcus's handwriting. I opened it carefully. Dad, I've been thinking a lot about our conversation at Christmas. About what you said. You're right. I've been ashamed, and I hate that about myself. I've been seeing a therapist, trying to understand why I feel like I need to be someone I'm not. I'm not asking for forgiveness or for money. I just want you to know I'm working on it. I hope we can talk again someday. Love, Marcus. I read it 3 times, folded it, put it in the journal with Eleanor's letter. It wasn't an apology exactly, but it was a start, something genuine I hadn't heard from him in years. I didn't respond immediately. Part of me wanted to pick up the phone, tell him I understood, that I forgave him. But another part, the part that had learned patience over 42 years of careful, precise work, that part told me to wait. To see if the change was real or just words designed to reopen the door he'd slammed. I kept working. The foundation kept growing. In April, we announced our second round of scholarships. Applications doubled. We selected 15 recipients. The stories were even more compelling. A 35-year-old single mother who'd been cleaning houses and wanted to become a licensed plumber. A veteran who'd served in Afghanistan and was struggling to find civilian work, but had skills in electrical systems from his military training. A teenager who'd aged out of foster care and had nowhere to go but refused to give up on his dream of becoming a carpenter. The ceremony in May was larger. We rented a bigger venue, more media attention. I gave a speech about dignity and respect, about how society needs people who can fix what's broken, who can build what's necessary. We don't need more consultants, I said, and I thought of Marcus even though I didn't name him. We need more people who aren't afraid to get their hands dirty, who see value in work that leaves you tired at the end of the day but satisfied that you've created something tangible. The applause was thunderous. After the ceremony, a man approached me, distinguished-looking, late 50s, expensive suit. He introduced himself as James Chen, Eleanor's nephew. My aunt talked about you constantly. She believed you were one of the best men she'd ever known. Thank you for honoring her faith in you. We talked for 20 minutes. He asked about the foundation's plans, mentioned that his company, a tech firm in Silicon Valley, had a corporate giving program. They'd like to contribute, $100,000 to start. I accepted gratefully, amazed at how Eleanor's legacy kept expanding. Summer passed quietly. I worked, the foundation flourished, and Marcus, he stayed silent. No more letters, no calls. I wondered if the therapy had helped or hurt, if he'd given up on reconciliation or was building towards something I couldn't yet see. In August, I received an invitation. The Philadelphia Trades Council was hosting their annual gala. They wanted to honor me with their Community Impact Award for the foundation's work. The event would be at the Bellevue Hotel. Black tie, 200 attendees. Business leaders, politicians, union representatives. I accepted. Bought another new suit. The date was set for September 20th, a few days after the anniversary of Marcus's gala in New York. The symmetry wasn't lost on me. 3 weeks before the event, my phone rang. Marcus. Dad, I saw online that you're receiving an award. The Trades Council thing. My heart started beating faster. That's right. I was hoping if you don't mind I could come. I'd really like to be there. To support you. The request caught me completely off guard. Part of me wanted to say no, to protect myself from further disappointment. But the part that remembered him as a child, eager and curious and kind, that part won. Okay. You can come. Thank you, Dad. I know I don't deserve it, but thank you. We didn't talk long. He promised to take the train down the day of the event. I hung up feeling uncertain, hopeful but guarded. I called Jennifer Harrison, told her Marcus would be attending, asked her to arrange a seat for him at my table. She heard the emotion in my voice. Are you okay, Edward? I honestly don't know, I answered. The days leading up to the gala felt strange. I caught myself rehearsing conversations, imagining what Marcus might say, how I'd respond. The foundation kept me busy. We were processing applications for our fall scholarship round, reviewing budgets, planning an expansion into job placement assistance. But underneath the work, anxiety hummed. The morning of September 20th arrived clear and bright. I spent it at a job site, replacing corroded pipes in a historic building downtown. Physical work calmed me. By evening I was exhausted but centered. I showered, put on my suit, drove to the Bellevue. Marcus was waiting in the lobby. He'd arrived early. When he saw me, he stood. We embraced awkwardly. He looked better than at Christmas, healthier. His eyes were clearer. "Thanks for letting me come, of course. We didn't have time for more." The organizers ushered us inside. The ballroom was elegant, round tables with white linens, a stage with a podium and a screen for presentations. Our table was near the front. Jennifer was already there, along with David Kim and Tom Fletcher. Marcus shook everyone's hands, introduced himself without embellishment. "I'm Edward's son." Just that. No mention of his job or credentials. Dinner was served. The conversation flowed naturally. Marcus asked Tom about his work, listened attentively, asked David about nonprofit law, seemed genuinely interested. I watched him carefully, looking for signs of performance, of the persona he'd worn at his own gala. But this seemed different, authentic. The speeches began after dessert. The council president talked about the importance of skilled trades. A union leader discussed workforce development. Then came my introduction. A video played on the screen. Images of me at work sites. Interviews with scholarship recipients. Jasmine, the girl from North Philadelphia, appeared. Mr. Morrison gave me a chance when nobody else would. Now I'm 6 months from getting my electrician's license. I'm going to make my dad proud. The video ended. The president called my name. I stood, made my way to the stage. The applause was sustained, warm. I reached the podium, looked out at the audience, and found Marcus in the crowd. He was crying, not hiding it, just tears streaming down his face. I spoke for 10 minutes, about Sarah, about Eleanor, about the dignity of work and the importance of respecting all professions. My wife used to say that a person's worth isn't measured by their salary or their title. It's measured by whether they make the world better or worse by their presence in it. Every single person in this room makes the world better. You build, you fix, you maintain. You keep our society functioning. That deserves recognition and respect. I paused, looked directly at Marcus. I started this foundation to honor my wife's memory, but I'm continuing it for a different reason. To teach a lesson I thought was obvious but clearly wasn't. That there's no such thing as unskilled labor. No such thing as a job that's beneath you. There's only honest work and dishonest work, meaningful contribution and empty posturing. The audience was silent. Attentive, I concluded. To anyone who's ever been made to feel small because they work with their hands, because they didn't go to a prestigious university, because their profession doesn't sound impressive at cocktail parties, I want you to know this. You matter, your work matters, and anyone who tries to make you feel otherwise isn't worth your time. The applause was immediate and overwhelming. I accepted the award, a beautiful glass sculpture, shook hands with the council members. Returned to my table where Marcus stood waiting. He hugged me tightly. "I'm so sorry, Dad, for everything, for all of it." I held him. "I know, son, I know." The rest of the evening passed in a blur. People congratulating me, media wanting statements. Marcus stayed by my side the entire time. When it finally ended, we walked out together into the September night. "Can we talk?" he asked. We found a bench in Rittenhouse Square, sat under the trees while the city hummed around us. Marcus spoke for nearly an hour, poured out everything, his insecurity, his desperate need to belong in a world that had never fully accepted him, the shame he'd carried about his background. The moment at his own gala, when he denied me, and immediately regretted it but couldn't figure out how to take it back, the financial troubles that had forced him to confront his values, the therapy that had helped him see what he'd become. "I've been trying to change," he said. "Not just say I'll change, but actually do it. I started volunteering at a youth center in my neighborhood, teaching financial literacy to kids who remind me of who I used to be. I've been honest at work about where I come from. I told my boss my dad's a plumber, that I'm proud of that. Some people have treated me differently, but the ones who matter haven't." He turned to me. "I can't undo what I've said or done, but I want to spend the rest of my life making it right, if you'll let me." I didn't answer immediately. I'd spent a year imagining this conversation, planning my response. But now, sitting here with my son, seeing genuine remorse and real change, the script I'd written in my head felt unnecessary. "I forgive you," I said simply. "But more importantly, you need to forgive yourself." We sat there for a long time. Eventually Marcus told me he'd put in notice at his firm. He was moving back to Philadelphia, taking a job at a smaller investment company that focused on funding small businesses and community development. The pay was less, but the work felt meaningful. He'd found an apartment in the city, wanted to be closer to me, wanted to help with the foundation if I'd let him. We could use someone with financial expertise, I admitted. David handles the legal side, but we're figuring out the investment strategy as we go. Marcus smiled. I'd love that. To be part of something that matters. The following months brought changes I hadn't anticipated. Marcus moved home in October, not into my house, but close enough that we saw each other several times a week. He joined the foundation board, brought structure to our financial management. His expertise helped us grow the endowment through smart investments. By December, we'd increased our funding capacity by 40%. We'd be able to offer 30 scholarships in the spring. Marcus also brought something unexpected. His network. He convinced several of his former colleagues, the ones who'd accepted his working-class roots, to contribute. Corporate donations started arriving. The foundation became more sustainable, less dependent on my personal inheritance. We spent Christmas together, cooked dinner in my kitchen, talked about Sarah, shared memories without the awkwardness that had defined previous conversations. Marcus told stories I'd never heard, ways Sarah had encouraged him, advice she'd given that he'd ignored but now valued. She told me once that character is what you do when nobody's watching. I didn't understand what she meant. I do now. On Christmas morning, he gave me a gift, a framed photograph, Sarah and me at his college graduation, standing on either side of him. We all looked so young, so hopeful. I want to remember this version of us, he said, before I messed it up, and I want to work back toward it. Spring arrived with new beginnings. The foundation held its third scholarship ceremony. Marcus attended, helped present awards. When he spoke, he told his story. The whole truth. How he'd been ashamed of his father, how that shame had poisoned him, how he'd learned the hard way that respect isn't given based on profession but on character. My father is the best man I know, he said. It took me too long to say that out loud. I'm saying it now. The audience gave him a standing ovation. Not for his eloquence, but for his honesty. I'm writing this now from my workshop, the same place where I recorded the night of Marcus's gala a year and a half ago. The journal sits open in front of me, pages filled with entries documenting our journey from betrayal to redemption. It wasn't a straight line. There were setbacks, difficult conversations, moments where I wasn't sure we'd make it back to each other. But we did. Eleanor's gift gave me resources, but it gave me something more valuable. The ability to teach my son a lesson he desperately needed, that money and status are temporary, that pride and honest work is forever. That family isn't something to escape from, but something to build upon. The Sarah Morrison Plumbing Education Fund now operates in 3 cities. We've helped over 100 students, changed trajectories, created opportunities. Marcus runs the day-to-day operations. I still work as a plumber, though less frequently now. I take the jobs that interest me, complex problems, historical buildings, projects where craftsmanship matters more than speed. I'm 66 now. The work is harder on my body than it used to be, but I can't imagine stopping completely. This is who I am, what I do, and I'm proud of it. Finally, completely proud, because my son is too. Last week we broke ground on the Sarah Morrison Trade Education Center, a building near Temple University that will house classrooms, workshops, and offices. A physical space dedicated to training the next generation of skilled workers. Marcus secured the funding. I designed the plumbing system, every pipe placed with intention and care. We're building it together, father and son. Different skills, same purpose. When Sarah died, I thought I'd lost the best part of my life. But maybe grief isn't an ending. Maybe it's a transformation. The love doesn't disappear. It just takes new shapes. This foundation, this reconciliation, this future we're building, it's all Sarah. Her belief in dignity, her faith in redemption, her certainty that people can change if you give them reason enough and time enough to do so. I miss her every day, but I feel her presence in this work, in Marcus's transformation. In the students we've helped, she's not gone. She's just everywhere now. Thanks for listening to my story. If you enjoyed it, please give this video a like. Subscribe to Edward's Revenge Stories for more content, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. The next story is even more unbelievable. Click the box on the left to hear it now.